I think the session is recording. We are live with a couple of people that are here. So before we get started, it will be great if a couple of you can turn on your cameras, show us your faces as well. I think we are here to like interact and talk to all of you as well. So it'll be great if whoever is on can turn on their cameras. Yeah.
I'm dead inside.
Don't worry, I'm dead inside too. It's just on my face. Trust me. Yes, that's the spirit, Tenzin. Thank you so much. Partly, don't worry, we'll give you some, what do you call it, life. Awesome. So, how you doing? Where you all from? Let me know in the chat where you all from.
I'm from Gurgaon, mainly.
Awesome. Bangalore, okay. No worries, Sagar. We will be okay waiting for you to join. I know where Simi is from, but everyone can put it on the chat where you're from. I'm calling from Bangalore. I am currently in Bangalore, India. And Ansh, I believe, is in Delhi right now.
Yes.
Awesome. So I think we can start in about a minute. Just get introductions in place. Everyone, say hi, where you from, what are you up to, and how are you doing today? Just put it on the chat. Hi, Simi. Hi. Hi, Balram. I think it'll be great if all of you can mute yourselves so that you can hear me and Ansh properly whenever it's required. Awesome. Hi, Antima. Hi, Rama. Where are you from, Rama? Hi, Anjana. A lot of UX designers going to be here today, so I'm excited to talk to all of you and learn a lot about what is happening in your lives as well towards the end of the call. Awesome, awesome. Great. Ansh, how has your day been like today?
Pretty good, actually. It was Friday, so Fridays are always light. I keep them light on purpose.
I think same here. I prefer my Fridays light. I can't go into a weekend thinking it's going to be a bad Friday.
Yeah.
Hi, Ujjain. Hi. I hope it's raining in Bombay as much as it's raining in Bangalore. Awesome. Great. There are about 27 of us over here now. People from all over India. Nice. Chennai, Bombay, Tamil Nadu, Raipur, Hyderabad, Bangalore. I think a lot of Bangaloreans in the house. Awesome. Great. Hi, Sumit. What's up? There's people from Pune and 10K. You'll be graduating soon, Sumit. All the best for that. We will talk more about that. Hi, Vikram. Awesome. Oh, I see people know each other over here. This is good. This is good. You can entertain each other on the chat while I wait for others to join.
But the world has become such a small place.
Tell me about it.
Like 3-4 years ago, there was no portal where UX designers could meet each other. Like it was such a new field, and I think the pandemic has allowed this thing to like blow up. I think a lot of UX designers came up in the pandemic.
I swear, like I have been in the industry longer, but I actually ended up socializing the last 2 years at levels I didn't realize I could. Like it was crazy. It was quite good. I think the whole spirit of community came down quite well. And I'm super glad that UX was one of the best places to have that community. Like the design community is solid. Really like it. Yes, Tenzin, blessing in disguise for sure. For sure. Even though it was quite depressing, though, the pandemic, this was a good thing out of it, the silver lining.
Yeah.
Oh, Ansh, you already have questions.
Yeah, I think Biswadeep is saying I have 30 hours a day.
No, bro, we all have 24 hours. It does feel like some people do, but trust me, it's all about time allocation. And we will talk a lot about that actually today. We will cover a little bit about that. I'm sure Ansh will be here to motivate all of you to be able to manage those 30 hours that you want to achieve. Or I sometimes want two Arpitas, just two, like one more of me who knows exactly what I need in life and just executes it parallelly. So thanks, Vishwesh. Philips, no advertisement for Philips, but these are Philips smart lights.
We have Tamir from Egypt.
I'm sorry.
We have someone, Tamir, in the chat. He's from Egypt. He's joining in from Egypt.
Nice. Hi, Tamir. That's great. I'm so happy that this platform has become so inclusive that I can meet people from all over the place. Like, it's insane. Like, I was hoping that this time is inclusive for different time zones. And let's see how this goes. Everyone who joined in later and hasn't left their introduction, let us know where you're from and what you're currently working as or studying. Hi, Karamveer. Oh, I had a Kashmir trip planned. Now I read Kashmir and it just hurts because it was just a plan. But amazing. I'm super excited to see all of you here. Hi, Aditya. Hi, Tamir. Hi, Balram. A lot of people here. I'm so happy let's just start talking, Ansh. I think as and when people join, we'll keep this casual. And for everyone who is attending a fireside chat for the first time, today it's my first interaction with Ansh as well. So I am looking forward to know a lot more about him and hopefully learn how he manages his time and day and his routine and his life as a product designer as well, right? So let's just get started. And for everyone who doesn't know me, I'm Arpita. I'm a graphic designer turned product designer, currently working with ADPList. And I'm here to interact with more designers from India so that we can connect with a lot more with you, a lot more of you this year, right? So, and Ansh is one of the first people that we are bringing on board for these fireside chats. So Ansh, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I'm sure everyone knows you, but still.
So yes, my name is Ansh Mehra. I am a UX designer at Zuddl.com. It's a company where we host virtual events. We started in June 2020. It was just 3 of us, and we raised 2 million as seed in October 2020. And now we're working towards a Series A. Apart from that, I run my own YouTube channel. I used to have a podcast called Take It Easy where I used to talk about life and spirituality and design. I'm really interested in those subjects that are slightly beyond, the spiritual aspect of life. And yeah, I think I call myself a storyteller primarily because before I entered the world of UX, I always wanted to be a filmmaker. And so I just picked up video editing and narration. So I think both of those skills have really helped me now as a designer as well.
I can totally relate to that. I didn't do a lot of filmmaking, but there was a lot of photography and a lot of storytelling through photography. So perfect. That sounds lovely. Now that anyone who doesn't know Ansh here, please do check out his YouTube channel and please go see the kind of content that is there, which is so entertaining, so engaging. I personally love it. And he makes design look so beautiful with his filmmaking skills. All of you must go check it out. I will put the link in the chat ASAP. But Ansh, now back to you. What does your regular weekday look like?
So these days, I actually don't have like a timetable because I feel that those are pretty useless. So I'll tell you what I do as soon as I wake up. I recently invested in a trainer and a nutritionist. So he recommended me to just wake up and have a glass of warm water, and I just have an apple and I just figure out what I have to do. I am a huge avid user of Todoist. It is a wonderful application. I would recommend everyone to check it out. So every time I get a task, I just put it in my Todoist, and my Todoist tells me what I have to do for today. The stand-up at Zuddl happens at 11:30, and from 11:30 onwards, I would just work in shifts of 40 minutes, work for 40 minutes, take a break for 20, work for 40, take a break for 20, and then eventually go to the gym in the evening. So there is no structure to my day, to be honest. I realized after a very long time that structures don't work for me. So I just do what feels really important at that point.
Works. I think that's a really good way to approach things. And routine is good. I think a chaotic routine works better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as I know, you were in VIT, you were pursuing engineering, and you did join IEEE. We all have, I think, I have watched your first video of What's Your Story, but if I have to ask you to reiterate again, tell me a little bit about how you started UX, what led you here, and you brought up a little bit about storytelling and filmmaking being your background. So just help us connect the dots here.
Yeah, it's really funny, right? Like you live through a couple of years in your college life thinking you'll do something, and then the universe just tilts you in a specific direction. I entered engineering just for the sake of it. Like I didn't really know what to do, so I just ended up doing computer science because my parents and the society said that it's a very safe stream. But in the end, of course, as everyone says, if you really want to be the best at something, you need to love that. So I realized that if I have to become the best at something, I have to figure something out. So I tried development, ML, AI, Swift, Android Studio, marketing, selling, everything. In the end, I realized that if I really want to live a stable life, I should probably do something in tech simply because, and Peter Thiel says this, that the world of bits and bytes moves faster than the world of atoms. So if you really want to scale in life, you should do something in tech. But then I realized that I don't want to do something which is related to development simply because it requires too much of cognitive load, right? Like you have to sit in front of a computer and genuinely think through a bunch of scenarios. So I realized that I have to figure out something that gives me more space. And a lot of space is given to creative people simply because you can't put a time limit on inspiration and output. So I thought UX is a good field to begin with. I was working at Swiggy as an intern. I interned with them twice actually. And Gautam is here. He's working at Swiggy now. It's a wonderful place to be at. And after Swiggy, I got approached by Bharat and Veda, who were the co-founders of Zuddl. They got the idea. They said that let's do this. I'm like, fine, like this is pretty cool. This is futuristic. So I personally believe I really enjoy UX simply because of two reasons. One, that it allows me to be in close association with the consumer and I have some ownership of the product. And secondly, it is related to tech and creativity. And both of these things are really valuable to me.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. Like I was in graphic design, and when I found product design, it was like an epiphany. I almost like realized, oh my God, what am I missing out on? Like there is so much value in the kind of work we do and the kind of difference that we make. It really motivates me every day to continue being a product designer. So I totally get that. I totally get that. And that's, you have kind of answered my next question, but about Zuddl, let's go a little bit into that. You said you were the first hire, right? How was that like? I think this will be a question which a lot of people who are starting out in product, they do encounter a lot of startups, right? Where they are the only designers, where they have to take a lot more ownership, and more so than always, we don't really know how to do that without proper guidance, without mentorship. So what was your journey like to even, figure it out how to be the only designer in that company?
So I think as soon as you get out of college, there's a certain peer pressure and a pressure to do at least two things. One, you should make a good amount of money for your own survival. So your parents might have a benchmark that you need to make at least 70 to 80K a month. If you're shifting outside, then you need to make at least a lakh a month. So one is the
Yeah.
financial stability. Second is the brand that you associate yourself with. And that is not a necessity. So paying your bills is a necessity. But what happens is that when you say that I am from an XYZ brand, people feel really happy because they think that the brand's success is your success, right? So then they treat you with respect simply because they respect that brand. The day you leave that brand, you are sort of like a normal person to them. So I realized that I can take care of the bills while apart, but I don't have to cater to the society's pressure of being in a good brand. So it is a myth that startups don't pay as much as big companies do. In fact, startups pay you more than big companies simply because they're looking for talent and they have more funds. Whereas the brand says that because we are the brand, we will pay you less. So being a part of this brand also comes under your CTC, which is a non-fungible ROI that you get. So as soon as I got into Zuddl, I realized that there is absolutely no structure, no nothing. And that chaos, actually, I just feel comfort in that chaos, right? Like I really enjoy figuring things out. I had a lot of freedom. And that is what I recommend to every single junior designer that comes to me, that you should find a really good startup that is just beginning, simply because you can stretch yourself more because we're super young. We're not married, low responsibilities. We don't have to pay for anyone else's bill. We can risk it. You can't join a new startup at the age of 30 simply because the society starts comparing you. Now you can't play around. But at
Yeah.
22, 23, you can play for as long as you want and no one is going to ask you. I think after 25, they start comparing. After 25, it's like, Acha, what are you doing now? So at Zuddl, I think I've spent a like a massive amount of time working on Figma first because I realized that the foundation is getting extremely strong at the tool, right? So you can't become a fabulous communicator or a salesperson until unless you have a really good grip on English itself, right? So
Yeah.
I realized that first become supremely good at Figma. Once I became supremely good at Figma, Medium was my go-to destination. I realized that Medium is the easiest source to get information at a very low cost. In fact, I would recommend every single designer on this stream to purchase Medium. It is going to be the best investment as a student of design. So a year passed by, and as I had no mentor, I obviously committed a lot of mistakes. I had no clue about systems. I was making ad hoc solutions, something that a lot of designers do, that they get a problem, they solve that problem without realizing that you're not solving the long-term problem. But now, eventually, after reading, hurting myself, figuring out what to do, now we have around 7 to 8 designers at Zuddl. We have a dedicated marketing team, a dedicated product design team. We are joining, we are allowing senior folks to come on board as well. So it's been a fabulous journey. Like I have grown so much simply because I was alone.
That's crazy. That sounds really inspiring, actually. And I wouldn't know a lot of people who have taken that risk, actually. That's commendable for you to do that and actually find your own process amongst all this. But you mentioned something about Medium being one of your go-to places. Where else do you draw inspiration from? And are there any, probably even people, if there are anyone that you draw inspiration from other than products, where
Oh,
does that come
definitely. So, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Notion. If anyone has been following me for a while, so they would know that I document everything on Notion. So, when you start Googling, it's very important that you structure the information you perceive simply because of the abundance of knowledge that is
from?
available out there. So,
Totally.
what you have to do is, you have to keep a track of all the good resources you find because you might come across a resource that is really valuable but not required at that point of your career. So you can't really lose that. You can't consume it because you don't need it, but you also can't lose it. So I started collecting a couple of websites, and I have this Notion document that has this huge list of websites organized by different categories. Then I started documenting everything that I learned, and then I started adding pictures and resources and all of these different things. So if I have to explicitly mention websites so I've put them into categories. The most important skill that took me a lot of time was visual design, which is UI design. So for that, you have Mobin, you have growth.design, you have UI sources, you have empty states. So these websites help you to figure out the UI aspect of it. Then I would recommend everyone for typography. There's a website called practicaltypography.com and typewolf.com. Then, of course, we had for design systems, there's literally designsystems.com, which is pretty straightforward, and designsystemsrepo.com. So if you follow these 8, 9 URLs, I'm telling you, there's so much of information. You'll just go deeper and deeper, and there's too much to learn from them.
Totally. I think I'm just going to make a list of it after this call and email all the people who are attending, because these are really good resources if you ever want to get started in terms of UI design or design systems like you mentioned. But having said that, how does your team work in terms of on a day-to-day basis, right? You mentioned there are 7 to 8 designers. How does your team collaborate on the inspiration part of things? Or is it a personal thing? Do you think it's personal, or can it be done in teams as well?
No, definitely. It's 100% personal. And inspiration is a very interesting subject. For a very long time, I felt that you can inspire someone and you can tell someone to do this and they'll do it. And I think Naval also speaks about this very frequently, that you can inspire someone momentarily, but you can't really help them do that. So what I do is, for a very long time, when I felt demotivated, I thought that it's the job that I'm doing, like it's the task that I've had. But after a very long struggle with this entire concept of motivation and energy, I realized that there are biological, physical, and emotional aspects to inspiration as well. So if you're not eating properly, if you're not sleeping properly, if you don't consume the right kind of nutrition, or if you're not emotionally aligned with the task that you've been given, you will not feel motivated at all. And you'll realize that it's the job, it's not the job, it's you. It's your body and your mind not aligning with your vision. So at Zuddl, I genuinely keep a track of every designer. I regularly ask them, are you exercising? Are you eating properly? Are you sleeping properly? I regularly ask them to spend at least 4 to 5 hours every weekend learning something new, because that's very important. You have to do something new every week. And it also helps you into your design process. So this is very interesting. And you would notice this as well. People who are really good sportsmen or sportswomen as children, they are really good at workplaces, simply because they understand teamwork and they understand human emotions and they understand egos more than anyone else, because sports is all about egos.
Totally.
So when you start learning really diverse things, they actually start reflecting in your design work. And you start picking things from music, architecture, interior design, traveling, food blogging, all these different things. Gautam has a wonderful food blog and a blog channel on Instagram as well. I would recommend everyone to check that out. But I mean, you learn so much by just learning new things. And we have this ritual, like now I think everyone is doing it on their own, but we used to have regular sessions on Figma office hours videos. So every designer would get one office hour video each. They would make notes of it and then have a 2-minute session where they would spread what they learned from those office hours videos. So for everyone here, if you want to learn Figma or design systems, there's no other teacher than Figma's YouTube channel. People are just not aware of it. They
Yeah,
just don't know. They
I
ask,
swear. Everything
yeah,
is there.
everything is there. They ask me, where do I learn Figma from? The answer is from Figma's YouTube channel. They know it better than anyone else.
I swear. Totally. I know, right? I have heard this quite a few times actually. When Figma caught up, that was one of the most commonly asked questions, because I started mentoring earlier in 2020 and I have mentored over 400 to 500 students somehow. I don't know how I did that. But that was a common question. How do we learn Figma? And I was like, if you Google Figma, that's literally the first thing is their YouTube channel shows up with
Yeah.
everything. So everyone who wants to learn Figma and is still trying to learn Figma, please go check out their channel. Their conferences are great. Their YouTube videos are great. You get to learn a lot of things. Very interactive community, right? So please go make use of that for sure. And you mentioned that you tell everyone in your team to learn, you ask them what they're learning and you recommend them to learn something new, right? What have you been learning recently? What is this one new thing that you have been learning?
So in the pandemic, I was really interested into magic. I would recommend everyone to just enter like magic for a while. It's a wonderful field, right? Because I'll tell you why. Magic. So there's a very interesting history of magic. when there were a lot of people, that when there were no wars and everything was stable, you had a bunch of chemists and scientists and physicists doing their own thing. But when the war came and things became really stressed out, a lot of funds were taken away from these people. And a lot of public was interested in entertainment because they wanted an escape. So physicists, chemists, scientists, psychologists, all of these people, they left their jobs and they entered magic. So magic is this one field which is an amalgamation of all these different subjects simply because their roots are derived from really diverse fields. Because our ancestors who were in all these varied fields, they simply entered magic. So magic is a wonderful, wonderful subject to figure out how chemistry, physics, and psychology and illusions can come together. And when you practice magic, the most important skill is the art of pretending that everything is going according to your plan. So you would bring someone to the stage, you would give them a cloth, and you would give them this illusion of control that they know what they're doing and they are doing exactly what they want to. But in reality, they are exactly doing what you want them to do.
This is so good. Now that you have said it like that, I'm really interested. We will talk more about this offline without making this entire conversation about magic. But wow, that was such a great insight. Like I would have never. Thank you. Thank you for this. I think everyone in the chat, I don't know about design, but I learned something crazy over here. This was insane. Now, I wanted to know. Now, this is a very common problem. Like you mentioned, during that time also there were issues. People went and picked up a new hobby, and one of them was magic. And as designers, as creative people, we all have points in our life where we feel like we are not good at what we are doing, and we probably need to find something else to do, right? And commonly known as imposter syndrome. We don't know how good we are at what we are doing. We just think we are just getting along, right? So what do you think? I had a really tough time dealing with imposter syndrome the last year. Like I lost my job. I had like a whole, like, why did I change my career in the beginning of the pandemic kind of a revelation. But what do you think about it? And how do you think, like you said, you're interested in psychology. I'm a psychology student myself. So I would like to know your thoughts and opinions on why do you think people feel this way, and what can help them really to cope with, such kind of thoughts and emotions?
Yeah, so I mean, not just imposter syndrome, there are different kinds of fears, anxieties, insecurities, jealousies, and a huge number of fears that we can face. So when I thought about this, I realized that most of my fears and all these syndromes, they came from information, right? Like every thought that you process is basically a derivation of information that you've been fed with. Most of this information comes from the outside. Like if a person was deaf and mute for 10 years, that person wouldn't have too many thoughts and fears simply because there's no information inside. So what you have to do is every time you get a fear, you have to figure out when was the first time I had this fear. Now it could be a multiple variant thing, right? So for example, if I lose my job, is it because I was bad at my job, or is it because of that company's positioning, or maybe that company's domain of work, or maybe the economy? So the thing is, we have, obviously we can't be the best at this, but we have to perceive reality as it is instead of perceiving it from the lens that we have.
For sure.
So, and that is a very difficult skill. Like I have been practicing it almost on a daily basis to see reality as it is. And the best way that you can do is every time you get a negative thought or any kind of fear or syndrome or imposter syndrome, you have to ask yourself, is this a fact or an assumption? And facts can be backed by data. You can't back any assumptions. Assumptions are simply thoughts.
For sure.
So every time you feel that, oh, I'm not good enough, take a statistic of every designer in this world, rank yourself, and you realize that you're far ahead of others. And that is a fact. And then you can think on the basis of facts.
That's actually really well said. But this is, like you mentioned, very difficult practice. Like I struggled with it myself for the last 1 year, where it was just like, to be honest, I don't think I have said it out loud till date, but I didn't even think I would get a job this year. Like I didn't expect it. I did not. I was so overwhelmed with freelance projects. I was not doing them well. I felt I was not able to apply. I Writing case studies felt like a daunting task to me. Like, and I started questioning myself. So I can totally understand, like, drilling us down to really understanding what is the fact and an assumption can get really difficult sometimes. So thank you for that. I think I'm really having a very good conversation with you, Ansh. We need to take this outside for sure, like for a longer, much more than 1 hour. I don't think 1 hour will do justice to these conversations. But quickly coming back to what everyone is so excited about, how do you allocate your time? Content creator, product designer, podcaster. My God, you are doing so many things. How do you manage your time? Like, how do you allocate time? And just tell us your secrets.
Yeah, so I mean, you have to figure out where are you spending your time, and time, most of your time is either going to be spent on executing or traveling or maintaining. So it takes very less amount of time to create something, but it takes a lot of time to maintain something. For example, things like cooking, cleaning your room, traveling to your office. These things don't give you any ROI, but they take a lot of time. So I realized that I have to outsource most of the things that take too much time. So when I was working at Zuddl, I did not have a YouTube channel, all these things. I did this after a very long time. But now I've had different people and I pay them their stipend and I let them do their job. So I don't render my videos. I have a Notion document where I've given them templates. When it comes to the podcast, I've paused it, but I simply reshare the stories again and again. So I create this illusion of activity, whereas in reality, I am working simply on Zuddl. And even in Zuddl, I have so many plugins and tools and resources and components that I can create designs 2 times faster as compared to any other people, simply because I leverage auto layout, I leverage components, and I leverage plugins. And plug Figma community is so underrated.
So
There
good.
is so much power in
I
Figma plugins. People are completely unaware of it.
I swear. Like, I think a lot about design. And also, I wanted to say, you're doing magic, right?
Yeah.
You're causing this crazy illusion. And that's insane because it does feel like I think someone mentioned earlier as well, like you have 30 hours in a day, but it's amazing how you have got this, like, and at such a young age. I would say I would commend you for that. That's a really smart way of approaching things and solving problems in a day-to-day life. Like, I think everyone, Figma community, if you want to become faster designers, please go look at it. Now they have added a search as well. So you can search through it super fast, right? Anything and everything. There are a lot of creators out there. So feel free to go up there and find something. On that note, Ansh, have you put something on the Figma community?
Never. I don't think I'm good enough for that yet. I'm still learning from these guys.
That's insane. That's crazy. But we're looking forward to when you do. I think you have started making some videos on how you keep your Instagram posts and how
Yeah.
you. We're looking forward to more of those videos. But what is your goal with your YouTube channel? And I know you paused your podcast. I think that's probably because you're working on another podcast, right?
No, so right now there are three things happening. I work on my YouTube, but I had to pause that because of Zuddl. So Unacademy recently opened their company called Graphy, and they were collecting some creators. So I'm a part of their cohort program.
Oh,
So I teach on Graphy maybe once a month on sessions like systems on Figma and getting a job and learning faster or monetizing your skills. So small sessions, 1 hour long. But my long-term goal with the YouTube channel is nothing much, to be honest. I just felt that there was a lot of information simply not collected. So if you go to my YouTube videos, you'd realize that I am not creating something new, but I am handpicking things that are truly powerful. Because
yeah.
when you're learning on your own, there's so much of clutter. It's too much of an effort to see through that clutter. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a couple of videos. I'm just gonna make 15 videos. That's all I've decided. I'm gonna stop after 15. Like that's the plan. But I know that in those 15 videos, you will know enough to at least earn for your livelihood. That was my intent, because I am a very spiritual guy, but I realized that you can't talk about spirituality and intellect until unless your stomach is full, right?
Yeah.
So I realized because that's when I used to talk. Every time I used to talk about all these things, they'll be like, but we don't have the funds to do it. So
Yeah.
if you're a UX designer, if you watch those 15 videos of mine, you will know enough to at least get a good job. That was my goal with it.
That is awesome. I think in a way, that's how mentors start, right? They start to inspire and empower others, and be it 5 videos or 15 videos or 50 videos, as long as it does the job, right? So I'm looking forward to your rest of the videos. I think they have been one of the most entertaining product design videos I have watched in a long time, to be honest. It's engaging. It's almost like a movie for me every time I watch it. I must tell you that. So
I
great.
just recorded. I just recorded the latest skit yesterday because every conversation that you hear at the end of those episodes is actually inspired from real calls that I had when I was in college. So I used to note down these things in Google Keep because I knew that this is too valuable to miss. Like this is too funny. Like it was painful at that point when I was experiencing it, but I realized that you can laugh at all these things after a while.
Totally. How was your college experience like? I know we are from the same college, but how was your college experience like?
I think I was very unprepared for college, right? Like I was the first person in my entire family to take science, to go to college. So I was just unprepared for it. But I feel that all of that has shaped me into who I am today. So I mean it's all worth it, right? Like I'm very happy where I am today. So I guess it was all worth it.
Totally, totally. And I think you went for a couple of hackathons as well during your college time. Was that how you discovered this entire um, creative side of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really thankful to VIT because VIT introduced me to the world of hackathons and they funded my trip to MIT as well. My first international hackathon, they funded that trip. I came back, then I said I'll take my team back to Boston. So we went for Hack Howard. We lost at Hack Howard, but the idea we built at Hack Howard was used at Microsoft Imagine Cup. So that was also a wonderful experience. So really grateful for everything that happened.
That's amazing. I think that we both have the same chapter to thank for that. So I am really glad, even for the chapter that I think IEEE was a great push. During my time, there was Creation Labs. I don't know if
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
yeah.
It's still
So
there.
we started Creation Labs actually. Like my seniors were the ones who got us all into it, and it was like IEEE's thing at one point of time. So yeah, I think that ways VIT had a lot of incentive for students like us to try things outside of our branch. Like I
Definitely.
do electronics and communication. I don't know how I ended up in design, but I got to work with great designers before. Like they are great product designers now. I don't know if you guys know Arvind Prasad Danbo. He is one of IEEE alumni only. And he introduced me to product design actually. I had no idea what UX was, but suddenly I was right there, and now he works for Google. So I know I had a right first mentor that worked great for me. So without taking too much of your time, and I also want to like take questions from the audience. I'm sure everyone is like super excited to talk to you. If you had to invite one famous person for dinner, who would it be and why?
That person needs to be alive, no? Like in a
Yeah,
live.
yeah, ideally, so that maybe we can make that happen for you someday.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a very, very offbeat answer, but I am a huge fan of Sandeep Maheshwari. Huge fan. He's a YouTuber, and I think he has taught me more than any person. Like, there is no YouTube channel, no other content source that has improved me as a human being as much as his channel. So, if I ever get a chance, it'll be with him.
We are going to try doing that. Sandeep Maheshwari, where you at, for sure. But if I have to narrow down the question, just one more layer. Designer. If you had to pick
Yeah,
a designer.
I think Pablo Stanley.
Yeah, no, he's a lot of fun.
I either Pablo Stanley or Mad, like Rob from Mad.
No, you're not giving me that throwback right now.
I
But yeah,
think
I
having
think
a chat with Rob is going to be epic. Like he was the OG designer. He was the designer before anyone else.
he's like actually right. He was so creative, and I think he's still around if I'm not wrong.
He is he has a YouTube channel. That YouTube channel is supremely successful now. He looks the exact same guy. Like he has not aged even a bit. He looks
I am going to go check this out for sure. But Pablo Stanley for sure. Like I think he's easily one of the most entertaining designers I have encountered in my life. Like all his characters, Pablita. Have you seen the horoscope characters of his?
yeah.
They are just hilarious. I
Super
think I think even Blush as a product enables so much for us designers who don't have the time to illustrate. Like not everyone is a great illustrator. I really struggle with illustrating. No matter how much I try, I'm just not like there. But when I find resources like this which are done by great designers, and it has been enabled because people want to help, right? And I think that's what I love about product design. Like we create products with pure intentions and they do so well. And I totally love how Pablo Stanley has brought this entire thing up. So for sure, I think if you ever get a chance to have a dinner, please take me. And last question for the night before we move to the audience. What would you like to share with, I would say, not any designer, but self-taught UX people who are trying to do this whole self-taught journey? I'm a self-taught designer. But my time was different. When I was struggling, times were different. It was only graphic design, right? Now I think the internet has so many resources and so much access, but how would you suggest them to navigate through all this that is there in the world?
See, I think that path is pretty subjective, but for people who are just entering design, please prioritize on learning scalability and prioritize on functional design, because it's very tempting to go on Dribble and figure out that, oh, this animation and this UI is very pretty, but it's supremely important. And the companies that you work with, they will value your ability to propose solutions that scale well. So if your application has 100 users, how can you scale it to the next 50K users or 5,000, 500,000 users? How do you build a system that scales from your phone to your tablets to your watch faces to all these things? So every time you read, every time you make something, please prioritize the scalable aspect of it and the functional aspect of it as compared to simply making things that look pretty.
Totally. I couldn't have agreed more. Like, I think all the time when people get started with design, that's one fear, I would say, which is constantly there to make good visual design. And if you have the UX right, guys, you're going to get the visual right eventually. And visual is all about practice. So if you're scared of visual design, please practice every day. Till the time you don't feel confident, keep practicing. Like, a lot of times I have heard that because I'm a graphic designer, visual is easy for me. It wasn't easy for me when I started off as a graphic designer either, right? It was just a lot of practice, lots and lots of practice, like posters, hoardings, everywhere you can do UX if you want to, because it's all about visual hierarchy, right? You have to think about visual hierarchy then and there. So keep practicing, folks. I think that's a great feedback, or I would say advice for people to start off with. Thank you so much for that. Ansh, let's move quickly to the questions. Need those 8 to 10 sites that he mentioned. Sure, Puneet, we will ping you those 8 to 10 sites that he mentioned for sure for inspiration.
Wait, I'll just send them now. Actually, I have the notes and talk. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. We will email you though after this as well. For anyone who didn't attend the session, we'll also have it. Oh my God, so many questions are coming in. Okay, let's take Manav's question. How did you go with hiring the first designer after you in your company?
Oh, that was very difficult. Even hiring is very difficult. I can't imagine, I can't overestimate how important it is to have people who vibe with you. It's not just the skill, right? So I regularly talk about this, that even if you're a junior designer, people not just only pay you for the experiences you design, they also pay for the experience of working with you. So if you're a fabulous designer, but if you're a horrible person to work with, you will not get the job. Even if you have the job, you wouldn't be able to become a person who's involved in all the proper discussions. So I mean, there were multiple factors that I had to consider, And it's not just my decision. The co-founders are always involved in all of these things. But the most important skill that we look for is the ability to think clearly and to learn quickly. Simply because every skill that all of us know right now, it's simply going to get redundant in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So the ability to adapt and the ability to quickly learn whatever Figma is coming up with. So, for example, like Figma has completely changed in the past 12 months.
Yeah.
The kind of updates that they've uploaded, Figma wasn't like this in 2019. So people who are not strong at learning or not quick at learning, they simply lag. So that was the main priority or the main quality that we look for, the ability to learn quickly.
For sure, for sure. I think that is quite required when you're an early stage startup and you need to move at a pace, right? So it's the same thing with ADPList as well. Like we need people who can work fast because we need to move fast, right? And that won't happen. I think once we are in a more settled place, we can give time to people to come and learn with us. But totally understand. I think that's one of the most important things actually while hiring. But on that note, you mentioned something. I just had a quick follow up. You mentioned that they are really good designers, but difficult to work with. How do you judge that during hiring? Like, how does that?
You can't. That's why we have everyone on a 3-month contract. And then we tell them that, okay, now things are working out and then you can get converted into full time. And that should be a rule actually. Like probation is such a nice concept. You should
Yeah.
never, even as a designer, you should not join a company full time immediately. And if you're hiring into the hiring side of things, you should not get someone full time instantly. You need at least 3 months to figure out.
Just to like understand like how our energies match with each other, if the objectives and goals are the same. Totally. That's great. That is actually really true for all hiring managers. If there are any out here, please. Probation is not to like diminish anything. And I think it's more to just break that ice. What I wanted to
Works
do.
both ways. It helps both.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move to the next question. Ishan is asking about color psychology for.
Can I go ahead and ask a question in case? Uh,
Yeah, now that you're here, for sure.
oh, great. So I have a question for Ansh that you mentioned at one point in your talk that designers are expected to know a lot of diverse skills, right? And which is good in a way. And I am interested in machine learning and UX. Both are like 50-50 for me. And I'm trying to combine both of them in a sort of way. So a few days ago, I discovered this thing known as MLUX, which is like intersection of machine learning and UX design. And so to learn both of these things, what will you suggest me that should I learn both of these sideways or first should I be good at UX design, then should I later add on ML as well? So because you're from a computer science background, so yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah. So it depends on what are your priorities. So if you're a guy who's doing ML and UX both, a startup would be extremely happy to have you on board if that startup is working in this field
Yeah.
where ML, AI, and UX is being combined. But if you go to a really, really established company, they will expect you to be specialized in one thing and be supremely good at that simply because they can't risk it. So it
Yeah.
depends on what you want. If you want a good UX role in a very, very popular company with a good brand name, then you have to become specialized in that. If you feel that there's a startup, which is a good startup, they have the funding, it's a good idea, you can be there, but even after 10 to 11 months, they will also come and ask you, do you want to be in tech or do you want to be in design? Or you'll always keep oscillating in between roles. And that is also great. But the problem is if you want to lead, at one point, they will ask you, who do you want to lead? Do you want to lead the people in the tech team or do you want to lead the people in the design team? Even if you are strong at both, they will never allow you to lead two departments parallelly.
Yeah.
If you were 45 years old, then you might have managed or pulled it off simply because of your credibility and track record. But simply because you're really young, they will never allow you to lead such big domains at this young age. So what you can do now is decide that one field that you are slightly stronger at. You're always better, like slightly better at one of those two things.
Yeah.
Then you double down on that. And then in your side hustle, you explore the alternate thing. And then 12 months down the line, you will realize that I truly love only one thing. The other is just a hobby, but my true love is in this domain. You double down on that domain.
So I was asking this for a master's in HCI. So that's what I have planned as
Oh,
of now. So can we do that in the master's program? So that's what
no
my
clue.
question was.
I have no clue about masters. I've never
Okay.
explored that domain.
Oh, so no problem. Yeah, you answered it pretty well. Thanks a lot for the same.
No worries.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Keshav. I think Harsh would like to go next. Let's bring Harsh on. Harsh.
Hey Ansh, hey Arpita.
I
I had a question. So whenever I design, like suppose I'm interning at a company, and I'm a designer there, pro design intern right now. So suppose I'm working on a particular feature on Figma, and before that I've done all my research, and I'm lately also into like philosophy and some psychology stuff too at the same time. So when I'm working on Figma, my mind gets zoomed in at times and I get lost from my track that I'm like mainly working on. Suppose I know the roadmap, okay, this is the way that I have to go. But at times I feel like, okay, I need to zoom out at times. I'm always zoomed in. So how do you like figure out like when to zoom out? And so that's my question. Yeah.
So there are two, three variables that you should mention in this question as well. One is that every time you're working on a project, there's a deadline. So if your deadline is on Friday and it's Thursday night, then your subconscious and both your conscious mind would simply tell you to zoom out. Like there is no way that you will stay zoomed in simply because you know I have to deliver this. The privilege of zooming in only comes in when there are no deadlines. You can go really deep simply because you know I don't have to submit this tomorrow. So
Hmm.
the question is, how do I set deadlines for myself so that I can remind myself to regularly zoom out? So you simply have to understand what are the checkpoints. So if you have a flow, you can say that fine, once I've completed 3 screens, I might zoom out. Or once I've completed the entire checkout flow, I can zoom out. What I do is there is a Figma file, Figma community file, it's called annotation cards. So because, and a lot of people, they think very quickly. If you think very quickly, a lot of thoughts will come and pass. So whenever your frame would be here, keep your thought in that annotation card. Download that annotation card file, use that annotation card file and start documenting all your thoughts. And what I do is I also change the fill color of that annotation card. So my thoughts are either as suggestions or doubts. So if it is a doubt, that annotation card is red. If it is a suggestion, then it's yellow or green, simply because it promotes success and all that sort of a thing. So instead of thinking, start documenting your thoughts in those annotation cards and you will eventually zoom out, zoom out.
That's a
That answers
great.
my question.
That's a.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Harsh. I think Keshav, there's a little bit of friends you can make on the chat here. Yash and Ujayan both are looking at masters in HCI, so you might want to connect with them.
Yeah, sure, sure. I'll connect with them on LinkedIn. I actually host a UX podcast, and there's a funny story which happened 2 3 weeks ago. So I was talking with Felix Lee. He was on the show recently, and we had a guest on the show on Instagram Live, and then he mentioned you because you're the first hire from India. So yeah, that's how I know about you from before
I was
before.
there on that UX live. I saw you.
Oh,
Yes.
that's so great.
So
Okay.
yes, we have. So I would suggest connect with Ujayan and I think
Yeah.
Keshav and Yash. You all three can connect post this call and talk more about masters. But for everyone who is planning to do their masters, don't do it because you think that the masters is going to get you a job, right? I think that is one thing that I want to tell all of you. The master's degree is not going to get you a job. If you know what you want to extract from that master's degree, that's what is going to get you ahead, right? You need to know why you want to do that course. What is that course going to benefit you? Is it only that course that can teach you those things, right? So try to attempt and learn that on your own. If I have to be honest, like there's a lot of things available with the power of the internet, right? So first explore what is out there before you go and spend that money to learn. You can earn that money learning as well,
So
right?
what my reason primarily is for doing a master's is that because I'm learning myself as of now because I'm also in engineering. So when we are learning online, for example, there are 4 points to something, and because we are learning online, we only focus on the practical aspects of a thing. So for example, if there are 4 important points and three of them are like really important, then we ignore the fourth point. It happens with most of us because we are learning self-learning and there are no examinations, like right. So but in a master's program that won't be the case. So that's why one of the main reasons I want to learn I want to
I
do a
think
master's in
you can
healthcare.
shed some light on self-taught learning a little bit over here to probably clarify this. And I'm sure masters will help, no doubt about that. But there is a little dedication that is required for self-learning for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to shed some light on this, Ansh, while we take the next question?
Yeah, no, I feel that if you can genuinely afford your master's education, you should simply go for it.
Yeah.
Simply because it's not just the knowledge you get, it's about the experiences and your exposure, and it shapes your personality in a way that you can't really get it here in your hometown or in your own house. So if you are selling things to fund that education, if you're taking a loan, then you have to be very careful, simply because the interest rates would lag behind the inflation, right? Because the cost would never match, and most people take a 10-year loan and the interest and all of that, too many complications. So be very careful about the funding aspect of it. If you can afford it, definitely go for it, because you can't do a master's when you're 50 years old.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think we're going to take 3 or 4 more questions max. I'll let, I think, Ujjain ask the question regarding the portfolio, and then everyone else can put their questions on the chat so that we can save time over here, right? Ujjain, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, hello Ansh. So basically, that was the thing. Like, I was going to ask, like, since I also come from an engineering background, and the reason I got into design is like I had a drop in engineering, and I attended a tech fest at IIT Bombay, a seminar by Pranav Mistry. So the Sixth Sense technology, and then I published a IIEEE research paper and everything. I went on ahead, and then what happened? I got into a tech industry, Dassault Aviation, and I worked in the PLM process. So there I got to know the 3D models, the 3D interactions that we do, and then the supply chain management and everything. And then also surprisingly, I read a book, Design of Everyday Things. So what happens? I have seen this, and I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong. Why does always UI UX land up in kiosks, desktops, laptops, and everything? I mean, Don Norman says everything comes down to the basic of product design. Design is ubiquitous. Even Pranav Mistry says, I mean, he made a special device and everything, gesture recognition and everything. So why not UI UX in the domain of? I mean, Tesla is coming up. Mercedes Benz user experience screen, Hyperscreen is coming up, and Mahindra came up with the same. So I guess I mean that is what I feel. It's going. I mean, a lacking thing. They should be more ubiquitous, I believe. That was my one question, just a discussion point. I mean, and the second was the same, I guess, the one with Keshav. So like, I want to do masters in HCI, interaction design. So the problem that I'm facing is like most of the universities have masters in fine arts, masters in des, and masters in computer science, hybrid into tech and design. So all of the things jumbled up. So yeah, that was the thing. So I guess it's great. It's great that I caught up with Keshav.
One thing I would like to tell you, Ojan, that there are universities that have specifically masters in HCI as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carnegie Mellon and Georgia Tech and everything, but they
Yeah,
are like,
yeah.
yeah.
You guys will have to connect about that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
We won't
Sure.
talk here.
No. Without taking too much of our time, we will do a session on this for sure sometime in the future. But currently, I'm going to take the last few questions. All right. I think I'm going to take Bhavya's question. How do you land your first design job without any real projects in your portfolio? What shall I do differently, which can serve as a substitute for real projects while applying?
Yeah, I mean, just to add one point to Ujjan's question. So geography is a wonderful subject. Like, if you feel that UX is limited to a specific domain, it's simply because of the environment you've been exposed to. So when I went to Hack MIT, they have this MIT Media Labs where they have
Yeah.
a couple of wonderful experiments going on. If you were born in San Francisco, you would never have this question in the first place. That is UX lacking in their use case. So it's simply because of where we are geographically that our perception of a subject is limited. If you were born in a family of biotech specialists, everything would seem about biotech to you. Your entire world will revolve around biotech.
Indeed.
So now the question is, how do we position ourselves in a place where these conversations are happening? And that is where your master's comes in. So you pay a fee to enter those gates where everyone is learning similar things. But internet is also allowing you to do that at a lower cost. So this session is an example of that. So yeah, that's just something you have to consider, that you can probably do a trip to MIT as well. Like, just take a ticket and go to Boston, man. Like take a
Yeah.
20 session
Exactly.
and your life will change.
Yeah,
Indeed.
and attend more sessions like this, and you're gonna make more friends around. I'm pretty
Sure.
sure about
Yeah,
that.
Yeah,
indeed, indeed.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that you,
awesome.
what Ansh said is really right, that we can learn everything we want to on the internet
Yeah,
basically for free,
yeah,
but still going to a university like Ivy League colleges. For example, we are living in a decade where the message is not given that importance as compared to the messenger. So that's why I think universities matter to a little extent as of now. So yeah,
For sure. We'll elaborate on this conversation. I think we need to do a group session on higher education for sure. I have a really good panel for this. Like I have King Siddharth who will have like a lot of good things to talk about. We have Abhinav Chikara who has his own cohort. So I think we need to do a session on this. This seems like a really interesting topic for sure.
yeah.
But last 5 minutes, I think we'll answer Bhavya's question of landing first design jobs without real projects. How do we tackle that?
Oh yeah, I think it's very difficult to get a job without projects. So
Real
again,
projects.
wait, can you repeat the entire question?
Yes, for sure. So the question is, how do you land your first design job without any real projects in your portfolio? What shall I do differently which can serve as a substitute for real projects while applying?
Got it. So I've done a very detailed session and it's called How to Get a Design Job That Pays You Well on
Where's
this
the
entire topic. But just to summarize it quickly, this question leads to more questions. So another question is, do you want a job in a very good company or do you want a job? Then it's also about, do you want a job simply because you have to work and you don't like freelancing, you don't like contracts, you don't like consulting, or you've explored all those things and you don't like that? So the question is, why would anyone hire you? First question, the first possibility is they can't find someone else better to join them. So they hire you because they probably went to Pablo Stanley and Pablo Stanley didn't give them any attention. So they are coming to you. The second is that you are so good that there is no comparison to you, right? It is either they are settling for you or they can't find anyone as good as you. So when we are super young, it's simply a matter of choice as to what do we learn that is so valuable and that is so important that when we apply to a startup is like, fine, dude, no one else is giving us attention. Let's just get this person on board because he or she is really good at what she is doing. So then it comes, the question is proof of work. So what you have to do is you have to pick 4 or 5 freelance projects or projects where you're getting some kind of payment. That is really important. So when you do a free project, the only limitation of doing a free project is that there are not enough stakeholders involved, right? You are doing things in your own comfort zone. There are no deliverables, there is no development, there is no criticism, there are no multiple cycles of iteration. You are in your fantasy land. You take a problem statement, you solve it, and you think you've solved it. But take a freelance project. So for example, 2 years ago, I was working on freelance projects that paid me 3K a month, right? I was very happy. 3K a month was a lot of money for me. I was getting zero before that. And
Yeah.
I used all of those paid projects to get a job or to get an internship at Swiggy simply because, and there's a very popular quote in Marwadis, I think, and I'm going to translate in English. So they basically mean that we respect people who earn 10 rupees as compared to people who spend 10 crores. It's very easy to spend crores, but even if you're earning 10 rupees, it's very valuable.
Yeah.
So get freelance projects from Internshala, Upworks, there's Dribble, there's Behance. You can get so many jobs online. Everyone's looking for a designer. I'm telling you, people who say that there are not enough freelance projects, there are many. Jobs are very low simply because of the commitment from the employer's part. So getting a full-time job is tough, but you can get freelance projects. That cheap freelance projects, abundance is there. Too many people to exploit you. So collect some projects. And then when you write your case study, focus on your thought process simply because your employer will never need you to replicate the same solution. So if you've solved a wonderful problem for a specific client, that ticket is expired. You can never use that solution anywhere else. So what you have to pitch is, how do I think? How do I manage my time? How good I am on Figma, how good I am on prototyping, on After Effects, on motion graphics and illustrations, all of these different things. Show your process and sell your process as much as you can. And one skill, which is a complementary skill, not at all related to design, simply practice enunciation and simply build your vocabulary, because most people who interview you, they will give you very short amount of time to impress them. And of course, they don't practice telepathy. So if you can't communicate your thoughts clearly, you will not get the job. Even if you get the job, you will face a lot of issues working with other designers simply because you fail to communicate clearly or properly.
Totally. I totally agree with that. And I think it kind of answers Hardik's question as well, how to convince stakeholders when they overrule the design when building an MVP. I think a lot of communication research, there are a lot of factors, but I'll let Ansh answer this question. How to convince stakeholders when they overrule the design when building an MVP and there is no data to convince them.
Yeah, that's a very difficult thing to do. There is no answer to this because every situation requires its own way. But there's this very interesting guy on Instagram. His name is Vizzy Andre. He makes the posters for Naval Ravikant. So he had this concept where he said that if you're in an argument, if you win the argument, you partially get the trophy. But if the truth wins and everyone is happy following what you recommended in the first place, then you are the actual winner. Because you might just win the argument and you might get your solution sorted, but you might have hurted a lot of egos. That bites you in the longer run. So at that point, you win that small battle. But if you're not good at understanding, if you're not good at empathy or listening, then you're losing out on the big prizes. So you win a stupid game and you win a stupid prize, and you lose out on the bigger picture.
Totally.
So what I have practiced is that every time I have a strong argument and there are no facts to back, I ask myself, can I have more people on board who have more credibility? See, when someone disagrees to you and there are no facts to back, there are basically two assumptions going on. And then it becomes a power game.
Yeah.
It's about the frame you have in a conversation. So if you have low credibility, and that is also a perception, credibility is also perception. In reality, everything is a speculation. You can never know whether a feature is going to succeed or not. It is purely speculation. So the problem is there are two people arguing and it becomes a one-to-one thing. So the first step is bring a third person on board who has more credibility than both of you. So if you can probably get a consultant, if it's a very small discussion, get the co-founder, get the CEO, get someone who has more credibility. Then try to stretch the discussion to the next day. Say that, fine, this is what we have accumulated till now. Let's pause. Let's come back to this tomorrow, because sometimes in that specific heat of the moment, your egos can blind you. But when you let people sleep on it, their egos are reduced. They wake up with a fresh mind, and the next day they are more willing or they are more adaptive to external solutions. So these two things are very powerful.
Totally agreed. And to add on to that small point, question everything, even the things that you say, even the suggestions that you make. Why are you fighting for it? Becomes a very important question that you need to ask yourself. Why this solution, right? And that's the best part about being a designer. Actually, we can question ourselves quite a bit, right? So always question yourself. Try to keep your ego aside, for sure. We need the right solution, like he said, rather than the what did you say, the winner? No.
So if in most cases, when you win the argument, the truth wins, but you don't win. You actually win when everyone is happy taking your suggestion.
Correct. That's the one. I'm going to quote this. Thank God this session is recorded. But last question, last question, because so many upvotes on that. You had mentioned something about projects, and the question came up about, I have done projects for clients under NDA, so can't create case studies on those and provide insights of them. What should be the way ahead?
I know. This is a very practical question. So, for example, you've had 4 projects under NDA and you can't do anything about them. You always get some insights from those projects. You can actually write very short practical articles on Medium without even discussing your project. So you only discuss your learnings. And then what you can do is you can make your own personal projects that simulate some part of that. So without telling something about what you worked on, for example, I recently uploaded a Medium article on upload buttons. I worked at Zuddl. I was working on an upload button flow, but I didn't reveal anything that was going on at Zuddl. I simply took that insight and then I explained that insight, which is absolutely unrelated to the project that you have. So you have to be very careful that if you have signed an NDA, you don't reveal any details about your project. But insights are not directly the project that you worked on. And you can always go deep into your realizations and your insights.
Totally. I think that's a great way to put that. Thank you so much for this, Ansh. Thank you so much for taking the time. I think we have gone a little bit over over our time, but I really had a great time talking to you, and I'm sure all of us learned a lot. I did. I know I did. And I am going to hit you up after this to have a longer conversation. And whenever,
If anyone wants to connect, you can always connect with me on Instagram. So it's
For sure.
anshmehra.work. So I'm always willing to. And like if you want to learn, like I teach for free. So it's wait. Yeah, so this is my YouTube. So I'm either on YouTube or on Instagram.
Sure. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Ansh, firstly, for being so patient, so approachable, and extremely fun. I think I had a really good time talking to you, and I'm sure all of us had a great time listening to you. So this video is going to be up on YouTube for sure. So if anyone missed it, if you want to share the session with your friends, feel free to do so. And we'll hopefully have Ansh back again for another session to continue and have a longer conversation. Yeah. Thank you all.
I just wanted to just one last thing. So thanks a lot both of you for hosting such a great session. So for Arpita and Ansh, I wanted to invite you both to the podcast in case you're interested in the same.
Sure, Keshav. We'll pick this chat for sure. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find Ansh on the links that he shared. We'd love to talk more about it with you guys. But before we go, let's take a picture, guys.
Sure.
We're not going to go without a picture. So, Ansh, would you mind taking the picture because my setup is a little messed up.
Sure, if anyone wants to open their cameras, they can do that.
Now is the time, guys.
Yes, let me close the chat.
Yes.
Let me. How do I? We can only see 6 people at once. So
Yeah, we'll have to. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Say cheese. Done.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
I just want to say one thing is that Ansh, whatever you're doing, it's really good. Thank you so much. Very less people are there in the internet who share this much knowledge. Taking out time for us and sharing this many things, it's really commendable. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. Thank
Plus
you.
one on
Thank you,
that.
guys. Thank you. Ansh.
Everyone, good night. Have a great night. Good night, Ansh. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you all. Bye.
Bye.